Welcome back. Assets worth over 1,000 crore rupees allegedly linked to Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and his family members have been seized by the Income Tax Department. This includes 5 properties. Nirmal Tower at Mumbai's iconic Nariman Point have been seized, sources have told us. A sugar factory and a resort is also among the seizures. Ajit Pawar and his family are the beneficiaries of the above Benami properties, sources in the Income Tax Department has said, adding that the Anti-Benami Act has been invoked as they refer to the allegations that the properties were bought illegally. Now to give us better insight into this topic, we have Abhishek Tripathi joining us, who's a BJP supporter and a columnist. We also have Avi Singh joining us from the broadcast, a lawyer from the Supreme Court, Sanjay Jha, political analyst, and we're joined by Aashutosh Srivastava, an advocate from the Supreme Court who also supports the ruling party. I want to bring in Abhishek Tripathi and Aashutosh Srivastava. Let's begin with Abhishek first. Now, assets worth over 1,000 crores allegedly linked to Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and his family members have been seized by the IT department. Your first thoughts?
We've seen before 2014 the 15 years of NCP and Congress regime in Maharashtra. And then now, last nearly 2 years we are seeing. Last 6 months we came to know that there is 100 crore Vasuli which is happening just by one officer going to the particularly NCP government and the ministers. So this is where we get to see what is happening and how it's happening. Now over 1,000 crore rupees is an amount and it cannot be by mistake. There is no vendetta. They can't be, it's not possible. So it's there for people to see what's happening in Maharashtra. And this is with Mr. Ajit Pawar, he is Deputy CM in Maharashtra. So this is just a beginning, I guess. I mean, in coming days we'll get to know more what's happening and how it's happening. So let's wait and watch.
Aashutosh Srivastava, your first thoughts?
Yeah. See, I would like to, concentrate on the legal provisions and the legality into it. This is a provisional attachment, first of all, made by the Income Tax Department. And, the assessing officer, as per Section 281B of the Income Tax Act is, authorized, who can utilize this kind of a power when he feels that such kind of, the attachment or the seizure of the properties in the interest of the, assessing officer and the Income Tax Department. However, while doing so, the assessing officer has to, apply his mind very judiciously and looking at all the, relevant documents, papers, and, the documents relating to the same. And this provisional attachment can be for 6 months, but it can be continued for another two years if, further allowed by the top officials of the income tax. To detach these properties or to revoke, there can be a bank guarantee also which can be furnished, and these properties can be released legally. However, and if the person whose property has been attached is not happy with such a decision, has the right, the legal right to approach directly the High Court by filing, a writ petition under Article 226 of the Constitution of India, and he can challenge such kind of orders being passed. So I think this power has been given as per the IT Act when it was amended in the year 1975, and this Section 281B was, inserted, and accordingly, this, power has been conferred upon the Income Tax Department. However, as I said, that it has to be applied in a very judicious manner, looking at each and every, minute details of the case. So now it will be, something
to cut you through. I just want to bring Avi Singh in at this point. Now, just last month, tax searches were conducted at the houses and firms owned by Mr. Pawar's sisters. Responding to the searches and raids, Mr. Pawar had insisted that all the entities linked to him have regularly paid taxes. What do you have to say on this?
Well, I think we're mixing up a lot of things. Today what seems to be undone, remember that we're not proceeding under the Income Tax Act, we're proceeding under the Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act. Now here everything was amended in 2016 to give more penal power to the Income Tax Department, and they seem to have proceeded, though the very issue of whether it applies to pre-2016 properties is sub judice before the Honorable Supreme Court. So that's one aspect. Now it seems that they've said that there are certain real estate firms, other firms in Maharashtra, which are Benamigars of who we don't know. In fact, the Income Tax Department today has said that whether Mr. Ajit Pawar is the ultimate beneficiary is still to be determined. So everything else, of course, is now what we are in the land of is selective leaks, sort of maligning people in the media. Let's see where the paperwork is. Mr. Ajit Pawar has not been proven to be the beneficiary. So now today we are saying there are certain, we haven't been able to prove what the sources of income are. So there are some assumptions. Whether those assumptions are judicious, as my good friend Mr. Srivastava was saying, or unjudicious, as a lot of these properties in the end up being given back to it, and it's just the process that hurts. And in the end, my last point is this today, is that nobody has faith in the independence of any agency, whether central or state. And it's high time we look upon how cases are picked up. From one party to the other, and their sins are washed clean, they move the other way, and their sins are reborn. So we must now come to a conclusion to preserve the sanctity of investigations, where we look at the motive for starting entirely onerous processes against individuals in order not only to preserve constitutional rights, but to in fact preserve democracy. Opposition doesn't mean you're the target of penal provisions and investigations.
Right, Avi Singh, thank you so much for first of all clarifying and just picking up on the latter half of your point. Sanjay Jha, I want to bring you in. Since 2014, we've seen increased action against opposition parties as far as the central agencies are concerned. Now, do you think this is a case of weaponization of central agencies against opposition party members?
Parmeshwar, first and foremost, good afternoon to you and to your very esteemed panel. And I do believe that the charges against Mr. Pawar are extremely grave and serious. I think the first thing that we need to accept, prima facie, whether there is a political motivation, whether it is on account of a nanny state that is, got its own agenda, the charges are serious. Now that's where Avi Singh's point becomes very germane. The credibility of India's investigating authorities or institutions. The kind of rampant, flagrant abuse of the CBI, ET, income tax, you name it. I mean, it's just out there in the public domain. I mean, today, for example, the institutions are so terribly emasculated that, every time there is a raid on somebody, you find there is a public sympathy for somebody who is being raided, because everybody's first assumption is that this has got a politically motivated agenda. And that, in my opinion, is a monumental shame, and it has been proven to be true in most of the cases. I'll give you an example recently of, Shah Rukh Khan's son being arrested without any dope being on him or him being even subjected to a health test. So I think we are reaching a situation, and to me as a politician, it worries me, because this kind of cynicism or disdain that people have for India's political ecosystem will make the public lose faith not just in the BJP or any other party, but they will lose faith in bureaucrats who are supposed to do their job independent of political difference.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm afraid that's all the time I have on this discussion, but thank you so much for providing your insights. Just to recap for our viewers who are just tuning in, Ajit Pawar and his family they've been accused by the Income Tax Department, and their assets worth over 1,000 crores have been seized, which are allegedly linked to the Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister and his family members. With that, we're stepping into a very short break. On the other side, we get you the latest details as